State of North Carolina is good at destroying your name, they just ain't good at replacing your name.
My name is Ellie, and I'm a member of the Innocence Project. This year, the Innocence Project has increased its focus on reintegration issues, which have become very near and dear to our heart. These three panelists right here, Greg Taylor, Sean Massey, and Scott Pierpoint, spent a total of almost 50 years wrongfully in prison. And they are here to talk to us a bit about their experiences since they've been released and some of the challenges that they're facing.
I'm Scott Pierpoint. I was convicted in 1992 of first-degree sex offense against my stepson due to my wife's hatred for me. She got mad at me and forced my stepson to do this against me, or else she was going to put him in a foster home or send him off or something like that. And I wound up doing 17 years, 9 months in prison for a crime I didn't commit. And I got it overturned in July 2010. The state needs to do something for people that does get out of prison with their convictions overturned. Just turn us out the door and hand us $45 and say, more or less, to hell with you. That's all they're doing. They're not sitting there trying to give me and Sean either one a pardon. I'm going through a long battle right now with my driver's license. I went through it for 15 months. I finally got it approved, but I got to have a car now with the interlock system in it. And they're just making it harder on me every day. I haven't even got a decent job to where I can even afford a car. And I've got a certain amount of time I got to have this done, or I got to go another 15 months to get my driver's license approved again. So what's the state trying to do? Just continue to drag me? They're not trying to recognize me as innocent.
I was actually born in Detroit, Michigan. I still can't help being a redneck, but you know what I'm saying. But I've been to a couple of churches since I've been out, but every time I go to church, it seems like they're just looking down their nose at me like I don't belong there and stuff like that, and which I do get paranoid, but my main thing is my anxiety. I can't stand to be around big crowds. I can't stand big churches and stuff like that. I like the old-fashioned country churches. And I can't find one of that nature here in North Carolina that I feel like I could attend and come out to where I could at least feel like a halfway human being instead of a low-life human being that I feel when I do walk in them.
We have these exonerations, so there's a lot of energy around what we're trying to do here. But as time goes on, and as employment, particularly in these economic times, employment proves elusive, and questions remain for potential employers and others about how they were exonerated or how they were released from prison, and was it really an exoneration? Well, if you don't have a pardon from the governor, then are you exonerated? I think then both Scott and Sean start to fret a bit, understandably.
So you got people here still, even just people in general that lives around me here. I've been in one fight because man wanted to call me a child molester after my conviction's overturned and all that stuff. And so, see, that's still things I'm dealing with. Some believe, some don't. Other than that, there's been a few other little comments and stuff, you know, just people saying something when I walk by, stuff like that, that you can actually hear.
People you know?
People that sees me here, that knows me up in here in this area.
Do you know them?
No, not personally.
But they recognize you?
Yeah, they recognize me.
They tried to get him to plea bargain. He asked me and my son, he said, "What would you do, sis?" I said, "Well, if you done it, you go pay the price, but if you didn't, no." And he says, "Well, I'm not going to plead guilty." He could have got guilty and got out. So he done the right thing. James finally came forth. After all them years, he said, been on his mind, weighing on his mind. All the way through school, had trouble. And he said, "I just want the truth to come out." He said, "That man never touched me, and nobody's ever touched me. I want to recant my story. I just wish my mother could have lived to see it." And I'm sure she knows, you know. She's looking down. Yes, she's there with us, Scott. That's all she ever wanted, was to see him walk in the door, you know, just come on.
In some ways, I guess I'm still institutionalized too, but I've got no hatred for the state or anyone else. I ain't got a hatred for my ex-wife. The way I was raised by Baptist minister's daughter, and I was raised, you don't hate no one. You try to get along the best you can, and that's just the way I keep going in life. I still wake up every day thinking it's just another day in heaven compared to what I have for the last 18 years. I can't think of it being no other way. I've got my freedom. I still have to live off my family. I live with my little brother, and can't find a decent job out there, so, you know, it's still psychological, like he says. Some people takes it a little harder than others, and I've tried to get over it. Right now, I was on medication when I first came out for anxiety. I'm no longer on it now. So I am trying to pull myself together. But there's not a day in my life I don't guess I sit there and think about this sometimes. Sit there and think about the prison system. Or at least once or twice a week I have a nightmare concerning prison.
Scott very much wants to help people. So I think he does, his brother, his girlfriends, his friends. He wants to be helpful, and he needs to help himself. One time when I visited Scott in prison, he had just been cited. He'd gotten a violation for having an extra shirt, I think it was, an extra shirt in his locker. You're allowed to have one. And he had the extra shirt so that when his lawyer visited, he would have a nice shirt to put on. So there's an awareness there.
Right.
But the restriction on that awareness has resulted in some uncertainty about how you dress, how you behave, both looking for a job and at press conferences, and, you know, a wide range of things these men have been asked to do in the year they've been out. So he's trying, what he's trying to do is put together a little job, get a little money in order to get some independent living. Right. And that would be good. You know, the old, we can't fish for them, we have to teach them how to fish.
Yeah, when I first went into prison, I had a lot of hatred in me. My sister come up there to the county jailhouse right after I was convicted, and she looked at me, she said, "Brother, the good Lord's got a reason." And I sat there and I thought, well, if there's a good Lord in heaven, what's his reason?
True that.
I'm sitting here an innocent man, and I'm fixing to go to prison for a crime I didn't commit. I said, what the hell is he trying to prove? You know, so I sit there and I turned against the good Lord for a couple of years. Finally, one day, I was sitting there looking out my cell window, looking at the skies, looking at the moon, looking at the trees, looking at my body of myself and the other human beings around me. I'm sitting there thinking, how can anything get more perfect in this world? How could there be a world this perfect? Some people think it's the Big Bang Theory brought the world around. I don't. Somebody had to make this world this perfect, and it had to be the good Lord above.
He's just always been a wonderful brother. Yeah, he's a great person. Couldn't ask for better.